Okay, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this little elephant. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to grab my ellipse tool, and with my ellipse tool I'm going to draw his torso. After I draw the torso, I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, and I'm going to adjust a few of these anchor points here on the bottom. I'll push that up a little bit. On the sides I'm going to pull that out and twist it around using the handles a little bit to make him kind of a plump elephant. So with your direct selection tool, just adjust those handles a little bit. Okay, so now that I've got the body taken care of, we're going to go ahead and start working on his back legs. So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool again, and I'm going to draw a little ovally shape that's going to become the main part of his leg. Then I'll grab my direct selection tool, and I'm going to adjust a few of these anchor points to pull the leg back a little bit. Do that on the bottom and also on the top. Kind of curve that shape a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my scissor tool. So you'll find the scissor tool under your eraser tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip on the top and on the bottom. And I'll take my selection tool, I'm going to grab that back part and then just delete it. Okay, so now that I've got the leg, I'm going to go ahead and grab my ellipse tool. We're going to start working on the foot. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a little oval shape for the foot. And I'm going to use my selection tool, kind of rotate it around a little bit to give it a little bit of a slant. And I'll adjust the sizes here. I'm going to put this at the end of the leg here a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to draw another oval that I'm going to put on top of it because I'm going to create another layer in his foot. But I want to actually make this back foot a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then I'm going to take my direct selection tool. I'm going to adjust the anchor points a little bit just to make that other circle just a little bit fatter before I do this next step here. Okay, so I'll get those adjusted. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those two ovals. So I'll click on one, then I'm going to hold shift on my keyboard, click on the other, and then I'm going to take my pathfinder and I'm going to divide it. Okay, so if you can't find your pathfinder, look under window and you'll be able to find it. After I divide it, I'm going to ungroup it and then I delete that extra bit. And I'll take my curved anchor point tool, which you'll find under the line segment tool, and draw a little curve on there. And then I'm going to delete, using the scissor tool, that little section inside the foot there to open up the foot to the ankle. Okay, so I'll go ahead and throw some color inside here. So I'll just grab my swatches and I'll just color this guy in to make him a little more elephant-like. I'm going to make his foot kind of a pink color. So I'll start with a pink base and I'll double click on this fill color and I'm going to adjust the pink to what I want it to be. Okay, so once I got it adjusted, I'll go ahead and click OK. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to select the different parts of the foot and the leg. You can hold shift to do that, so select multiple things. And then I'm going to go ahead and group it together. So you can right click and group, or you can go under object and group. But I'm going to go ahead and group it together so it's just easier to move with. Then I'm going to make a copy by hitting Control C, Control V. And then I'm going to reflect it by right clicking and going to transform and reflect. And I'm going to reflect it on the vertical there. And I'll line this other leg up on the other side, so both the legs there are where they need to be. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to draw his front leg. So I'll start by grabbing my rectangle tool, drawing a rectangle. Then I'm going to grab my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw an oval to line up on the very bottom of that rectangle, so the anchor points and the corners all meet together like so. Okay, so you want the anchor points, corners of your rectangle and your oval to meet together at the same width, in the same spot. So I'm going to go ahead and select those two shapes once I get it adjusted, and I'm going to use my pathfinder tool again and I'm going to unite those two shapes together. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to warp this shape, give it a little bit of bend. So I'm going to go into Effect, Warp, and Arc, and I'm going to set that to vertical, and I'm going to bend that about 10%. Everything else I'll leave set at 0. Go ahead and click OK after I get that adjusted. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and expand the appearance. So you can do that by going under Object and Expand Appearance so it recognizes the new shape. I'll make a copy of that, and then I'm going to grab my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw 3 little ovals that are going to go on the bottom of this copied foot that I made. And I'm going to turn them to the side. I'll go ahead and make them white here. And I'll go ahead and get those lined up on the bottom where those toenails need to go. And then I'm going to select them all, divide it using my Pathfinder, ungroup it, and then pull out the 3 parts of the toes to put on my leg over here. Then I'm going to grab my scissor tool again, and I'm going to click on the top sides of those of that square, and I'm going to delete that part there. So I should probably group the parts of the leg together too, so when you move it around it all moves together as one piece. So I'll go ahead and get that arranged, make a copy of it by hitting Control C, Control V, and then I'm going to right click, transform, and reflect it on the vertical there so that it will match on the other side. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to go ahead and work on will be the ear. So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw an oval. Then I'll grab my direct selection tool and I'm going to mess around with those anchor points to kind of warp and shape the ear how I want it to look, because I want it to bubble out at the top a little bit and I want it to kind of narrow at the bottom a little bit. So we'll just adjust some of the handles and the anchor points there to get the shape I want. So now I've got the shape I want. I'm going to go ahead and do the inside of the ear. So I'll grab my ellipse tool again and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll draw an oval here, grab my direct selection tool, and I'm going to adjust the anchor points here to create the inner part of the ear, just moving the anchor points and the handles on those anchor points around until I get the shape that I want. So let's twist that around, and once I've got the shape here how I want it, I'm going to go ahead and throw some color into this ear here. Okay, so I'll start with the main part of the ear and I'll just grab that eyedropper and suck out the color from there, and then I'll take the inside part of the ear, take my eyedropper again and suck out the color for that as well. Go ahead and put the stroke back around there. Okay, so I'll select those 2 parts of the ear and I'm going to go ahead and group them together. So you right click and group, then I'll make a copy of this ear here by hitting Control C and then Control V to copy and paste it. Okay, so now I'm going to right click, I'm going to transform, I'm going to reflect it, and I'll reflect it on the vertical, click OK, line it up here on the other side. Now I've got that, we'll go ahead and start working on the head. So I'll grab my ellipse tool, draw a little circle, I'm going to go to Effect, I'm going to go to Warp, and I'm going to go to Shell Lower, and I'm going to set that to horizontal. And I'm going to do this about 30% on the bend. Everything else I'll leave at 0. I'll click OK. And then I warp the shape, so I need to go to Object and expand the appearance so it recognizes the new shape. And I'll probably shrink that down just a little bit so it's a little more appropriate to the size that I need. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to make the trunk. So I'll grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle here. I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, I'm going to flare out the top a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under Effect, Warp, and Arc, and I'm going to set that to vertical, and I'm going to do a -100% bend on that, get a real big curl on it. I'll go ahead and click OK. And since I warped the shape, I need to go to Object and expand the appearance. So after I've expanded the appearance, I'm going to take my direct selection tool and I'm going to grab some of these anchor points to kind of shape this trunk a little bit more how I want it to look. Okay, so I'll twist the handles a little bit. I'm going to probably remove the color while I'm doing this so I just see my outline. But I'll just grab my direct selection tool and adjust a few of those anchor points to curl it up a little bit more and bring it down a little bit more. So let's take the next few seconds adjusting the shape of this to what I need it to be. Okay, so I'm going to take my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw a couple little ovals here at the end of the trunk there to create a little rounded edge there. So I have one for the top, one for the bottom. I'll take my Pathfinder and I'm going to go ahead and unite those shapes together. What I'll go ahead and do is pull down this top side with my direct selection tool here. Kind of flatten out that shape and flare out the trunk a little bit more at the top. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and put the color back in, and I'll bring this over to his face. I'll go ahead and add that stroke back around it. And I'm going to adjust the size a little bit, and after I get the size adjusted, I'm going to take my scissor tool and I'm going to snip on either side of the line here at the top. And after I snip on that, I'll select the top half and then just delete it for my trunk. And now what I'm ready to do is I'm going to put some curves around it. So I'll grab this arc tool, which you'll find under your line segment tool, and I'm going to put a couple of wrinkly lines across the snout here. So I'll take a second and adjust. Okay, so now I got those wrinkles. I'll grab my ellipse tool and we're going to make an eye. So I'll fill it in with black. I'm going to rotate the shape a little bit. But I'll draw a little circle for a highlight inside the eye. I'm going to select those two shapes. I'm going to group them together. So if you click on one shape and then hold shift, you can click on the other shape. And then I'm going to rotate them a little bit, and I'll make a copy of it. I'll also group them together. So if you right click, you can group those two shapes together. So I'll copy it, I'll right click, transform, reflect, and I'll do that on the vertical. Click OK, line it up here on the other side. And now I'm going to take that curved tool and I'm going to create some eyebrows, and I'm going to create some wrinkles in the ears, and I'm also going to create a few little hairs on top of his head. Okay, so I'm ready to work on the background. So I'm going to open up my layers tool. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to lock this first layer. Then I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle to cover the whole artboard. And now I'm going to create some little bamboo shoots. So I'll draw another rectangle. And I'm going to delete one of those anchor points at the top using my delete anchor point tool, which you'll find under the pen tool. Then I'm going to go effect, warp, and arc. And I'll just arc it about 10% to get a little bit of a curve of it, and then go object, expand appearance. And now I'm going to draw a leaf, so I'll draw it with my oval. I'll click on that top anchor point and convert it to a corner, and then I'm going to warp the shape, and this time I'm going to use the flag effect. So I'm going to set that to vertical, and I'm going to do about a negative 20% bend. Everything else I'll leave at 0. Click OK. Then I'm going to go ahead and expand the appearance. So go Object, Expand Appearance. Now I'm going to go ahead and line this up on my stick that I've created. And I'll make multiple copies of this leaf and arrange it around the shaft. Okay, so I'm going to group all those parts together. So if you select them all, let's group them. That way they'll move together. And I'll make a few copies of it and arrange it around the background here. So to make a copy, I hit Control-C, Control-V. Just rotate it around. Doing this all with my selection tool. Okay. So I'll put one here at the bottom. I'll spin that around on the bottom as well. Okay, then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to drag this layer underneath layer 1. So I'll open up my layers window and just drag that down to bring the elephant to the top. Then I'll grab my ellipse tool. I'm going to draw a little oval there, put a transparency on it so there's a little cast shadow, and there we have it.